Okay, so really, going to talk a little bit about how not to get scammed, but honestly, the whole premise I'm going to give you and have to do it short because we're going to do short presentations followed by a panel. Is that what we're doing? Yeah. Just how not to lose your freaking money, right? Like, it doesn't really matter. I was talking to Chris about it earlier. It doesn't matter if there was nefarious intentions on it. You can lose money just by missing out on some information, just not doing your due diligence. So it's not necessarily just not how to get scammed or defrauded. It's just not how to lose your money, right? So next one. We'll go through this quickly. So common scams for me, since I'm in private money, I want to teach you, since passive investing is pretty important for a lot of people and it ends up being towards the tail end of your active investing journey, is that you really don't want to flip anymore or do wholesaling. Maybe you don't want to landlord anymore. You want to start investing passively in syndications, private money debt funds, doing private money yourself. I do a lot of education on that. There is a lot of opportunity there, but there's a lot of risk as well. So when it comes to private scams or private money scams, a lot of it's around misappropriation of funds. Again, doesn't have to be nefarious, didn't have to be intentional. It could just be that the borrower did something wrong or ran away with it. In this particular instance here, this was an investor in, I believe it was Chicago, and he was a finance influencer, unfortunately. And he scammed about a couple of dozen investors out of $11 million. This one, they want to say it's intentional. I don't know if we'll ever really know, in fact, but the reality is that there's a lot of people out there that put themselves out as gurus, coaches, mentors. They put on seminars. They want to teach you and sort of learn to earn. And that can be a disastrous way to invest if you're not really investigating. So a lot of people come to me and they've heard me on Bigger Pockets. I'm sure Leica gets this a lot too. I've written a book for Bigger Pockets. They want to think like, oh, Beth knows it all. But I'm telling you, don't invest your money with me just because I wrote a book. Don't invest your money with me because I'm on social media. That's not the way to do it. There are people out there that can scam you just as easily, and it probably even faster because of our public presence out there. One thing I just want to point out, though, that the gray area here is that it's not scammy or fraudulent to lend money out and do it unsecured. Lots of people intend to do it, but for me, it's a gray area because you're going to lose your money. I mean, if you don't have any protection, you cannot go after them in a foreclosure situation if your capital is not backed by real estate, period, end of story. It's not necessarily a scam or a fraud, but it is definitely gray area where you could really be gambling. And if you're a gambler, like I like to do it, Matt and I like to play poker and cards, but I don't want to do that with my real estate investments. And so there's a big difference between investing and gambling. And the problem is that you see a lot of this online, and none of it really ever is in Seattle. I've not ever seen like a Ponzi scheme like explode in the greater Washington area. I don't know if you guys have. But we do have that existing amongst our real estate community. And Seattle is a pretty small real estate investing community. We all know each other. We all know each other. Next one. So in Waury alone, I have 3 examples of where people got scammed, frauded, lost their money, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter to me. But they acted as mentors, they acted as coaches, they put on seminars locally, one in here in Bellevue. She led out of, you can learn and earn through me. And so she would put on these seminars like she was, a subject matter expert. They would want to invest their capital with her because I don't want to go out and find a flip on my own and learn for the first time. I want to learn through somebody else, and why not learn it through, this Waury community? All great until you don't investigate that person, and she may or may not actually use your money in the manner in which she said she would. The other 2 guys one was in Waury and fortunately, a couple of these people were kicked out already. They've since changed their names, their entity names. So they're still out there doing this. And all it takes, you guys, is a small Google search. Channel your inner psycho. Like women, we can kind of do that a little easy. It's just right underneath the surface, right? All you have to do is put their name in, figure out like from the people search, what's their middle initial, put it in there, put fraud, scam afterwards, Seattle, real estate. You will be shocked how much you find out about these people. So just do your investigation because it really can help uncover some problems. These guys offered extremely high ROI. This is an example here where, and this came from this group, and unfortunately these people are always coming to me and sliding into my DMs asking me for a second opinion, offering a rate of return of 30%. How many people in this room have found a deal in the last 6, 7, 10 years that had a margin of 30% on it? Anyone? It does, okay, put your hand down. More often than not, it doesn't exist. The 1% rule hasn't been around this market for a long time. So the question you need to ask yourself is, why are they offering this high rate of return when they can go out and get private money, right? They don't have to JV with you. Why can't they go out and get private money for 12%? Uncovering this a little bit, the high rate of return, kind of a red marker, right? Is it always going to be a red flag? Not necessarily, but you should question yourself on why they want to offer you that much for such a short rate of return. This guy actually offered it. He did not back it by real estate. He did what's called a hypothecation, a note on note. So it was not backed by real estate. It was backed by a loan that he made to somebody else. And there was no personal guarantee. So, and again, these guys are still operating under different business entities, one in this market, one in Texas. No, there's nothing you can do about it. So you just have to be a little bit more investigative and question yourself, are they really legit? Are they just a guru? Are they still actively investing? Can they prove out some and verify some of their transaction history, right? Something that you have to ask yourself. Next one. Other things is falsifying information to passive investors, forged documentation. I get this a lot. This guy here, I think he was in North Carolina. He's getting over 4 years. Some people are getting decades for their Ponzi schemes. And again, SEC can file suit, US attorneys can file suit. He promised people that he was going to place them in loans that were backed by real estate, but he didn't. And they didn't do enough legwork to actually feel it out and realize they were actually just being given a promissory note. And then he went and told, so he didn't pass it through himself. So a lot of people will take money directly from they'll just wire it directly to the borrower. This guy didn't, but then he would go and direct escrow to wire funds directly to him out of closing. And then he would supposedly pay out the borrowers. And a simple investigation asking to see and review the promissory note and the deed of trust or the mortgage before funds, sending your money to escrow, making sure that you do all of those things, incredibly important. You cannot just give your money to somebody and hope that it's going to be okay. But forging documents, misrepresenting documents exists out there all the time. So you have to actually look at these pieces of documentation and then go out and verify as well. So locally, I had 3 examples, again, of documents that were modified. The top one, hopefully you can see it, was that a guy sent me 3 contiguous lots next to each other in Seattle, notice of violations from the city on all 3 of them, changed out the parcel numbers on one of them because he had clearance on one, it was released, and the other 2 were not. We went ahead and verified it with the city of Seattle. Why? Because I have a relationship with Victoria there, and all I had to do was ask and make sure, is this? Because how does it just get removed miraculously? She was able to send, and she immediately called us actually, and then sent us the documentation and said, these numbers were switched, I wouldn't move forward with this transaction. And so it really does take an eagle eye. You cannot just take somebody's word for it. And even here, we were making great attempts to go and get a title report so that we could verify, but you need to take it one step farther, right? Can it actually be removed? And no, in this case, it wasn't. In another case, for those of you that do relationships with business entities, when you request the operating agreement, sometimes there are additional amendments that come into place. This is a specific resolution that was not sent to us, saying that the other silent partner then, after the OA was signed, required signing authority. And he only sent us the OA. So then she had to then go and pursue him for legal actions, a civil suit afterwards, because he misrepresented it. Simple way to save this was we now require every person on that business entity to sign and acknowledge a loan. So if you enter in a JV agreement with somebody, if you extend credit to anybody as a private lender and it's a business entity, you need to make sure that there's not just one single signer. It may say that on there and everybody might have agreed to it, but I'd have a conversation and something in writing from every single one of them, making sure that they're aware of the transaction that you're entering in. Because sometimes you're going to find out they don't know. and that these arrangements were made without their acknowledgement. Another one, I had a guy that went in a JV silent agreement with an owner. He took out a loan with us in first position. Then he went and immediately deeded it over to his sister's entity, and she went out to Eastside Funding and got $250,000 from them too. They thought they were in first position, and they weren't. They were in second position behind us, all because of a small gap period in the time that the loans were recorded, and there wasn't what's called a date down supplement on your title showing it. So then he had to file a claim with the City of Kirkland. City of Kirkland then turned it over to the King County Financial Crimes Unit. We got subpoenaed and brought in as witnesses, and then they prosecuted the guy. But it takes a long time. This guy was elderly. He had entrusted his property to this other younger investor that he thought was going to do right by him, and it didn't work out that way. My final point is negligence and ignorance can lose you money. It does not matter if it's a scam, a fraud, nefarious. It doesn't matter what the intent was. You have to do your homework. Each and every one of you that lends your money out or places your capital into any real estate investment, you have to be the stewards of your own capital, pure and simple. Right? And nobody's going to protect your capital as well as you. So the primary thing here is don't take people's word for it. Please get it in writing. And when you do get it in writing, verify it. Verifying it means that you need to make connections with people in this room. There's attorneys. Most of the time there's title and escrow in the room too. There's other investors. These are the people that are going to give you a gut check and a second opinion on if and how you should proceed. And it's very important to verify. There's a difference between information and documentation. Don't let this fear of missing out cloud your judgment. Do the work. Do your due diligence, even if you know them personally. The handful of people that have burned me in the last 2 years, I've known each one of them very personally. Very personally. I've had to foreclose on people that I've done business with, like been business partnerships with. It's not okay. But every time that I told myself I was giving them I was going to be lenient on it, I've been screwed. So this is me telling you up front where Matt and I have lost confidence in the world sometimes when we thought we trusted these people implicitly, and we went ahead and gave them some money, and then they screwed us. And they were the last people, I tell you, that I thought that I was going to get screwed by. So get a personal guarantee so that you can go after them in a deficiency if you have to. Get it secured by real estate so that you can ensure that you can go after them in a foreclosure process. Get educated and get connected in the group like this. For those of you that raised your hand that said that it's the first time that you're here, as Leica said, I will say probably 80% of my business has been built through WARI, and that's not a joke. And I've known so many people here for almost the last decade because of this group. So while there are some strange floaters out there that will try and scam you, there's a lot of really good people here to connect with as well. And you need to have them in your back pocket for when you come into situations like this, and you need to get a second opinion. Yeah, okay, so earnest money deposit lending is that there's a lot of wholesalers that like to get properties under contract, and they want to get the earnest money deposit as a loan from somebody. It's not illegal, it's not unethical. It is just a transaction that is unsecured. It's not backed by real estate. And when you lend that money to somebody, again, you're not a material participant. So this is the act of placing that earnest money deposit, because a wholesaler will tell you, I've got 50 properties under contract. I'm obviously not going to close them all myself. I just need to get a borrower or a buyer in there, and all my money is tied up. My argument is, if you're going to be a wholesaler out there, and granted there's some larger deals out there, so the wholesalers can tell me if they agree with me or not, and that's perfectly fine, but it's a cash management problem. Keep some money in your pocket that actually can be fueled for your earnest money deposit transaction on your transactions. Don't just blow up all these contracts and get these properties under contract that you can't necessarily place your EMD down yourself. Because EMD is like sometimes $2 grand, $5 grand, 10 grand, depends on what part of the country you're in, what kind of asset class. It's not that much. Yeah. So the ones that are saying they're throwing it at volume, I don't know. To me, it's just like, why don't you have $5 grand to put down on a property? But if it's not handled carefully and that money, the transaction doesn't close, you could get tied up where your money is not given back to you. And again, you're not a material participant. I don't know if Cynthia or Scott has anything to add to that, but it's a really precarious position to be in when you're lending somebody for their EMD deposit.
I have another question. So flipping the story, right? What if a borrower is actually getting scammed by someone that is giving them the money. Like, so I go to a private lender and I expect that the private lender is everything that they say they are, a strong W-2 income, they have the funds to back this investment, but then they're actually just borrowing money from someone else, scamming someone else, but also scamming me in the process. But so how does someone like that get vetted?
So it's funny, I had a slide in there and I took it out because I'm like, 10 minutes is too long or too short. Borrowers have to really be careful about who you choose to lend or choose to get your financing from. The most common thing with private lenders is not necessarily that they're scams or they're frauds, it's that they're inexperienced and they're amateurs. As investors, you typically find private money within your network, and they're less experienced in real estate than you are, so you're having to guide them through that process. Most of the time they get cold feet and walk away. Is it scammy? No, but will it screw you in the 9th hour when you've got non-refundable earnest money down? Yeah, it will, because they're walking away from the deal because they're scared. When it comes to finding private money, there's this notion out there now called a connector or a broker. Connectors and brokers just don't have access to their own capital. They're trying to connect a person with capital with somebody who has a deal. That in and of itself is not a scam, but it means that you're not working with a direct lender. So there's a lot of people out there, the biggest scams out there would people be offering to having you place a upfront fee. Right? Like I need to pay your origination points, or you need a due diligence fee up front before we'll look at it, and they'll give you a term sheet. That's never gonna happen. Don't ever give any money out before you actually get your funds. You never have to pay. The only time I've ever had to pay for a fee up front is on a commercial loan. Commercial loans, you're typically putting a deposit down. Not all the time, right? Yeah. But I've never been asked conventional, DSCR, private money, hard money. I've never been asked to place a deposit down. I've seen people in forums on social media that have been asked to receive their closing costs up front before they close. And people have actually done it. It's scary to me. Like, why would you pay 11 grand out on a $200,000 loan that you haven't closed and it hasn't been recorded? It just doesn't exist. So my advice would be to go and vet them out on the website. I typically look at their websites. I found one locally in Seattle. It was some stupid condo in Seattle. It was a resi condo. It wasn't even an office space. There was nothing on their website that showed who they were at all. And it had tons of reviews on it. And then I went and tried to research the reviews. They were all fake. So look and see if there's an address, look and see if there's an About Us on there, look and see if everything is just stock photos. Again, not necessarily a scam, not necessarily a fraud, but it's kind of an indication. I've had people reach out and say they were with certain lenders, and I go and check out their website and I go to About Us and they're nowhere on there. And they're only a team of 5, so it's like, who are you? They could just be a broker at best or a connector trying to bridge that gap and add points to your loan unnecessarily. Or they could be scamming. So you just have to make sure that you're doing some research, just as you would if you were the private lender side. You've got to investigate these people. You will be so surprised how easy it is to find information about folks, and yet we just never do it. We don't stalk them on social media. We don't stalk them on Google and check out their, I even Googled their entity names, all of that stuff. See who the agent is. You just have to keep digging deeper and deeper into it.
Well, thank you. How can the crowd find you?
Through my husband, Matt. No, you can find me on Facebook. Oh yeah, they're in the back. On Facebook, I'm just Beth Pinkley Johnson, and or you can look us up at FlynnFamilyLending.com or Lend2Live.com.
Thank you so much, Beth.